we have attained the quorum, and I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Subcommittee on Import and Export General Amendment Regulation 2013, and this is the second meeting. Shall we invite the administration and the deputations into the meeting room, please? The two members who suggested inviting deputations, Mr. James Doe and Mr. Paul Chair, are not here with us.
你嗰日好似唔在場，我向你。各位早晨，好歡迎。
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome the representatives from the trade to air their views. Joining us for this meeting are Professor Chen, Under-Secretary of the Bureau, Permanent Secretary Mr. Philip Chan. From the Trade and Industry, we have Mr. Low. Customs and Excise, Mr. Wen. From the DOJ, we have Madam Yip. And Mr. Wu also from the DOJ. And Mr. C from the DOJ as well. Welcome. Deputations, I'm sure you've been here before. Well, just a reminder that you may wish to clip on the earpiece and select the channel that you prefer. 0 is for the floor, number 1 for Cantonese, number 2 for English. To facilitate simultaneous interpretation, please stick to either Chinese or English. Please do not mix the languages. When you get the floor to speak, please be reminded that you will not be protected by the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance, so please observe the legislative provisions when you get the floor to speak. There are 7 deputations for today. I'd like to invite them in order. The first one is Mr. Tang from the Hong Kong Suppliers Association Limited. 5 minutes each, please. And that applies to members as well as the officials' reply. Chairman Tang, thanks very much, Mr. Wong. We are 100% against this restriction on the export of infant formula, because this is against free trade in Hong Kong. This is also detrimental to Hong Kong's reputation as a free port. Do we have any scarcity of infant formula? We were not involved in the initial meetings. What is the definition of scarcity? I've got no idea. Is it the case that just because there is shortage in supply for a certain brand, we call it a scarcity? Do we have to resort to such drastic measures which will undermine free trade in Hong Kong, just because of the shortage in supply for a couple of brands. I mean, is the shortage happening to certain outlets or certain places? Has the government conducted any analysis to ascertain the extent of the problem? Basically, these are suppliers. These are a couple of suppliers. They are not power companies. They are not bus franchisees. Now, there is very good competition. If one doesn't want brand A, they can go for brand B. Why is it that the administration cannot liaise with these suppliers and the retailers to smooth out the supply chain and the logistics, to make sure that the infant formula products will reach the hands of the parents in Hong Kong? There can be many ways that they can be made available. They can be direct delivery. You don't really have to go to these drastic measures of restricting export. It is a wasteful use of resources. The customs excise has to inspect the goods, and you have to incur expenses. And I mean, all brands are basically similar. You don't have to stick to brand A. If a supplier is recalcitrant enough to engage in certain commercial practices that undermine the supply chain, you have to penalize them. I think that the Director of Health must have the power to do something about it. Since they cannot supply the infant formula, they should not engage in any advertising. Since they don't have the supply, they should not engage in any advertising. Or you can get Telecommunications Authority to have a look at the content of the advertising. There can be a whole series of measures, and you can also investigate as to whether they have breached the UMAO. There can be a whole string of measures, and also the trade description orders can be invoked, or if anything, you can bring in the ICAC. If they have committed wrongdoing, there can be so many ways to make sure that the couple of suppliers will make amends. If you cannot really regulate the couple of suppliers, how can you regulate the situation in Hong Kong? Tomorrow, you're going to regulate beef. Are you going to regulate nappies? I'm not sure whether the proposed amendment is against the WTO, the World Trade Organization. Are you in breach of the WTO requirements? In your proposal, in these documents, it says that the applicant for export should, at the time of making the application, supply the bills, the invoices to tell the administration that the products are imported from outside. Now, there is no, I mean, this is detrimental to free trade in Hong Kong. If someone has procured a shipment of goods and tries to export these overseas, and this is not allowed. And I believe he's trying to do that. He simply can't do that. Mr. Vincent Frank has set all the suppliers down and talk about the problem. Why doesn't the administration come up with all these measures? I'm running out of time. I would suggest that the government has to ascertain what is of scarcity of supply. Right. Hong Kong General Chamber of Pharmacy Limited. Chairman, thank you. On behalf of the Hong Kong General Chamber of Pharmacy Limited, Hong Kong is a member of the WTO. We have to be bound by the WTO requirements. The GATT, G-A-T-T, stipulates that unless in limited situations, as a member jurisdiction, no restriction on import and export should be allowed in terms of quantities. Now, for emergency measures, it is only in emergency situation that this would be allowed. In this import and export amendment regulation, I don't think this measures up to this for a couple of reasons. First, there is no serious scarcity of infant formula in Hong Kong. Second, these measures are being applied, and this is against the GATT arrangement. We proposed that there should be a sunset arrangement, sunset clause to be included into the regulation, and you should review the period for which this is effective, and you have also to review the justifications for amending the regulation. Now, it is only in the case of limited supply that you should implement this. I don't think you should implement measures on a permanent basis. Now, the shortage in supply happened to a number of brands or a number of types of brands, and the supply has been back to normal. And there is very much a consensus among the suppliers to make sure that there is good supply. Since the supply has stabilized, is there any necessity for us to have these import and export measures on a permanent basis, or is it, or should it be considered as an emergency measure, which will only be implemented in emergency situations instead of on a long-term basis?
And this is also being unfair to the Hong Kong babies residing on the mainland. I think they are entitled to a legitimate right in that they should be able to get their formula. We don't doubt the administration, but then we just think that it is a matter of a negative vetting mechanism. But then we are free economy, a democratic society. I just wonder whether this is in line with free economy and whether it will affect the development of free trade. I think the consequences are more far-reaching than that confined to this particular amendment exercise. It was introduced around the time of the Chinese New Year, and the suppliers did not actually have sufficient time to find out about the details from the administration. I think we should have a clear picture about the issue instead of generalizing it. I think laws are made for human beings, and we are here to address the emergencies. I don't think we should be imposing more and more restrictions. Otherwise, we'll be losing the characteristic as a free society. We are proud of being a free economy so that we have prosperity and stability. I don't think we should be putting ourselves into a straitjacket, and this is being done at the expense of our advantage. I don't think we should adopt such a stopgap measure and being ad hoc in our reactions. Thank you. Next, Ms. Wong Ying. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members. We are from the Snow brand, and we are a social responsible corporation, and we always give attention to the needs of the babies. Some brands earlier on had a severe shortage of supply, but then at the retail level, the Snow brand was still able to keep a good supply at the retail level. As far as the amendment to the Import and Export General Regulations, this is supposed to have the following objective, that is to stabilize the market and to do a blow to the parallel traders so that the powdered formula won't be diverted from the supply chain in Hong Kong. Earlier on, we attended a meeting of the Food Safety and Environmental Hygiene Panel of the LegCo. The so-called run on the formula was in fact the phenomenon arising from a failure of the supply chain of certain brands. It has not spread to the entire market. So it is a partial problem, and yet we are resorting to an administrative measure to deal with the issue with reservation. This is because the normal operation of businesses, say for example, supply of formula to Macau, or in relation to follow up on the complaints from consumers, all such matters have resulted in chaos in our business operation. And we're supposed to get an export license. I hope it will be as flexible as possible. And I think the steps should be streamlined so as to cut down on the business costs. Now you may have 300-gram tins, 900-gram tins, and you may have different pack sizes for number 1 or number 2 formula. So you need to fill out different application forms for the export of such formula. We need to follow up on the consumers' complaints, and we have to deliver the products to our headquarters for examination. Sometimes we send a tin or 2. Now, for us, we still have to work through our trading company so as to get an export license before we can send a tin or 2 of formula back to our headquarters for laboratory examination. So it will be much affected. We hope the government will be as flexible as possible. At the same time, the Snow brand is of the view that the government should set a timetable for reviewing the effectiveness of this milk ban and find out whether it is necessary to continue with this piece of legislation. There must be an open and transparent mechanism to make sure that we know when it will be reviewed and how. This is going to affect a lot of people. People may want to go on an overseas trip, and if somebody would like to spend a month's time in Canada, 2 cans won't see them through a month's time. Other than consulting the views of the participants, I think we should also consult the views of the local community. Parents and the carers of the babies should also be asked to comment on the legislation. The government's review should cover such opinions as well. Once again, we say that we know that it is the manufacturer's duty to stabilize the supply. The government should, in the long term, look at the demand and supply. But I don't think we should, just because there is a problem arising from a number of brands only, we introduce any measures to interrupt the market. We have always been proud of being a free society. We should maintain a healthy and fair market for competition. Thank you. Next, Ms. Chi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members. For us Wyeth, we have always been advocating the protection of babies, and we want to promote the health of the babies. And we hope that parents don't need to bother themselves when it comes to the purchase of powdered formula. Before Chinese New Year, certain brands did have a shortage problem, causing concern on the part of local parents. We understand the concerns of different stakeholders. We have been cooperative, and at appropriate junctures, we have been increasing the supply so as to meet the market demand. We want to emphasize once again there is indeed no run on powdered formula, so to speak. In fact, we're able to have a sufficient supply for our babies, for our local babies, for at least a month's time. We have a sound supply chain and good market monitoring system. We are confident that we can provide the customers with the powdered formula ordered within 24 to 48 hours time. Other brands have also got sufficient supply, so we don't think that there is any severe shortage of powdered formula. Well, I think if there is already a sufficient supply in the market, if there's only a shortage among a few brands, then there's no justification for amending the law. There are also other views in the market, in the community. There are other ways to make sure that babies get sufficient nutrients. For example, not too long ago, the Department of Health and 5 medical groups of professionals issued a joint declaration saying that parents who have problems with getting a particular brand may switch to other brands. So we should also consider the following option. That is, try to talk to the brands that have got sufficient supply to solve the problem of shortage of certain brands. Yes, sometimes you call for exceptional measures during exception times, so you may have to amend the law so as to impose a ban, but then you need to introduce a sunset clause. On the 8th of March, members spoke on the matter. Yes, perhaps there's a need for amendment, but I don't think it should be long term. Therefore, please introduce a sunset clause. Even if you can't introduce a sunset clause, please undertake that there will be a review in due course to make sure that you will consider whether the amendment should be repealed in due course. Mr. Chung from the Hong Kong Infant and Young Child Nutrition Association. For those who are not on breast milk, I think powdered formula is important as a source of nutrition. So it is important that there should be a sufficient and stable supply of powdered formula. So there should be a way to ensure that. But then any measures to be introduced should not affect the free trade of Hong Kong. Therefore, we urge the administration to repeal the export ban introduced and which came into effect on the 1st of March. Understand that the purpose of the amendment is to make sure that local babies will get an adequate supply of powdered formula, but then the shortage was only found among a number of brands only. There isn't a general shortage. It is a matter of commercial operation business acts. There's no need to amend the law. In fact, there are alternatives which are less intrusive. Some retailers have voluntarily introduced measures to make sure that local parents can get a good supply, and individual brands have also cooperated with the suppliers and retailers to make sure that there won't be a shortage. We are a member of the WTO. We have to honor the obligations. For the 1947 General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, it says that as a WTO member, we're not supposed to introduce any quantitative export restrictions and prohibitions. As to the so-called severe shortage, in fact, there isn't a general shortage across the board, and the DFH and some professional bodies have already said that if parents have difficulty in getting the usual brand that they've been consuming, they can always switch to another brand. So it is not a matter of having a very limited situation. The ban is going to be a permanent one, and there isn't a mechanism to review it, so it is not going to be temporary. Therefore, this is inconsistent with Hong Kong's WTO obligations if we are to have this export ban. Yes, exceptional situations would call for exceptional measures, but then we must have a sunset clause and make sure that there is a review mechanism, and please also set out clearly the factors that will lead to a lifting of the ban. All in all, we know that it is important to have a constant and secure supply of powdered formula for local babies, but then the export ban isn't going to be an effective way to deal with it. This conflicts with our obligation as a WTO member. This will affect our reputation as a free port. Therefore, we should have safeguards like sunset reviews. Thank you.
All right, next, please. Chairman, members. Our group has been in existence in Hong Kong for 30 years. We have imported infant formula for retail, and also we have a lot of traders are bringing in products to Hong Kong. We have 500 or so. We have good relations with 500 or so organizations. Now, these legislation proposal will have severe impact on the trade. Now, from the stakeholders, I get to realize that they feel that this is a wise move on the part of the government. As many said before, Hong Kong is a free place of commerce. The restriction on the export of baby formula should be a temporary measure. It is an unwise move. It should be halted as soon as possible. Now, the scarcity of baby formula is only a temporary phenomenon, and it doesn't affect all the brands in Hong Kong. And we do have plenty of supply of baby formula now. Under the legislative proposal, a lot of the small brands suffer a drop in their business turnover because they sell products not only to Hong Kong people but also to visitors from outside, including the mainland. And many are innocent victims in this exercise. It doesn't really do much against the parallel goods traders. The government is devoting so much resources promoting Hong Kong and luring visitors to Hong Kong. Visitors come to Hong Kong for baby formula, and they have to be criminalized, and this is really a laughing stock for other people. I think that there can be simple ways to deal with the problem. We can liaise with the suppliers and the retailers. There should be better communication to make sure that Hong Kong mums would enjoy plenty of supply. Second, there can be taxation. When exporting the products, there can be a tax slapped on it. If you consume locally, you don't have to be subject to any tax. Now, take a tin of baby formula, for instance, for export. There can be a tax of $50 or $100 slapped on it, and people know what the situation is all about. Now, the government is using stamp duty to tackle the soaring property prices. Now, I think we can do the same thing with regard to baby formula when it comes to export. All right, Mr. Ma. Next, please. Chairman. As a retailer myself, I fully appreciate that this piece of legislation will have severe impact on the market. Now, there was scarcity of supply in two brands. Why is it the government is introducing this piece of legislation to tackle all the products? There are so many mainlanders who are users themselves. After the 1st of March, they come and buy the products, and they, instead of just coming here alone or with their spouse, they're coming with a whole family to buy the baby formula, and this is causing a great deal of inconvenience to them. And I hope the administration will have regard to this situation. I've got an idea here. The shortage in supply happens to a couple of brands. Why do we just do something about them instead of making every single product bear the responsibility? Thank you. Thanks very much, 7 speakers who just spoke. And now I'd like to throw the floor open for questions. We don't have that many members. I am not going to impose any time limit, but please do exercise some self-discipline and do not be too verbose. I will have Mr. Vincent Fang and so on. Mr. Vincent Fang. Chairman, thank you. I'm grateful to you for convening this public hearing. And there are some deputations who signed up late and they were fitted in still. I'm grateful to you for that. As we can hear from the stakeholders, the problem lies with the supply chain. There are problems with 2 brands. During the Lunar New Year period, I had a chat with Dr. Ko Man about it. If there is a bit of a problem with the supply chain, and we are making a mountain out of a molehill and stopped the baby formula from exporting. Now, this is really ridiculous, and this is a laughingstock the world over. We're infamous for that. The administration is resorting to such drastic measure. I think it is really politicizing the issue. By politicizing the issue, the secretary and the chief executive did see the popularity rise. Mr. Dr. Ko Wing-man has seen his popularity rise by a great margin. I'm really congratulating him on that. Since this was brought in on the 1st of March, baby formula is more or less regarded as a kind of drug. I mean, there has been an increase in the number of customs and excise officials, 200 more. They have 50, 60 X-ray machines being brought out to conduct the test. This is unprecedented. If you go over the limit, you have to be slapped with a fine, and you have to be detained without being put through a trial. And these are all very drastic. Now, we've seen some verdicts handed down by the court, and all these people arrested are users themselves. They're not parallel goods traders. We thought that there are so many parallel goods traders who are from the mainland, but in fact, a lot of them are from Hong Kong. And I hope that the administration would pay regard to this. The Secretary for Food and Health has seen his popularity rating soar, but we have paid a severe price for that. We have sacrificed our free trade, and what we sacrificed the most is to intensify the conflict between Hong Kong and the mainland. This is something that is filling us with profound regret. We used to have good cooperation between Hong Kong and the mainland. If Hong Kong suffers, the mainland is or was helping us. We had trouble with our water. We get the Dongjiang water. After the SARS epidemic, I talked with the mainland officials, Ms. Wu Yi, and we had the individual visit scheme that was introduced to help Hong Kong. If there are any natural disasters, the Hong Kong people will lend a helping hand to the mainland people. We enjoy very, very good relationship. But this infant formula saga has intensified the conflicts between Hong Kong and the mainland. Do we really have any scarcity of infant formula? I don't think we have. It was a perceived situation that we have all these suppliers who gave us the guarantee that Hong Kong mums will be able to get their supplies of baby formula. You have been given the reassurance. So I'd like to put this to the administration. Now, if since we are going down the legislative route in such a hasty manner, have you talked with the Trade and Industry Department as to whether we are on the wrong side of the WTO requirements? Dr. Ko implemented these measures in such haste. Are you asking the Trade and Industry people to back you up? So, Chairman, I hope that the Trade and Industry Department can be invited to tell us whether they were consulted before implementing this ordinance or this regulation. Well, we have Deputy Director General there. Also, we have the DOJ represented here. With this regulation, are we in breach of Basic Law 115? So I hope that I would have some advice from the DOJ. If we flout all these legislative provisions, what was going to happen? Okay. Please exercise self-discipline. Do not be too long-winded. All right. Thanks very much, Mr. Vincent Fang, and also Chairman, for the opportunity for us to respond to this. Today we have the Permanent Secretary with us. We also have representatives from the Trade and Industry Department. Now, these are special measures for an unusual situation. We do have cross-departmental meetings that were held to examine the feasibility of this proposed regulation. We also had meetings with the DOJ. Perhaps I would like to defer to my colleague, the Director General, and also the Permanent Secretary to fill members in on the details. Mr. Chen, Mr. Fang mentioned the WTO. When we examined the proposed regulation, under the GATT arrangement, the member state cannot impose any quantitative import and export restrictions, but there can be temporary quantitative import and export restrictions in relation to the short supply of key products. Now, regarding these proposals, we are in compliance with the GATT arrangement. Well, the Permanent Secretary is an expert for food and health, but what about the trade and industry? Have you sought the advice of the trade and industry? Right, Mr. Fang, shall we let Permanent Secretary finish first before we call upon Mr. Low? Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to emphasize that when we put together these measures, we did have cross-departmental cooperation, so we did consult the views of various departments. Perhaps I can hand the floor over to the trade and industry for further explanation. Mr. Low, Chairman. Thanks very much, Mr. Fang, for the question. Mr. Philip Chen has already mentioned one of the key messages here is that whenever the administration implements any restrictive measures, we would carefully examine all the implications under GATT. So this is really something that must be done. Now, in putting together the amendment regulation, we did do just that before putting forward the proposals. Our conclusion, as Mr. Philip Chen said a moment ago, is that after examining the situation, we are of the view that this proposal will not be against the GATT requirements. The Permanent Secretary has already given all the justification. So the conclusion is that there is no breach of the GATT arrangement. Mr. Fang has got another question, and that is the basic law and the violation of the basic law. Perhaps the DOJ might wish to comment on this, please. Chairman, we did look at the provisions, and they are in compliance with the basic law provisions. We did have a thorough consideration in this regard. Perhaps I can defer to my colleague from the DOJ for further explanation here. All right, DOJ, please. Chairman.
DOJ, Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Vincent Fang's concern is mainly in relation to Article 115 of the Basic Law, which says that the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region shall pursue the policy of free trade and safeguard the free movement of goods, intangible assets, and capital. As far as the amendment exercise is concerned, in the course of drafting, the DOJ did consider this article. In a gist, we came to the view that there is no contravention against the basic law. This is because for Article 115, it says that we are talking about the overall policies, and when compared with the human rights protection clauses, it means that it is not going to give a particular right to a particular person. So it is more about the policies rather than providing a right to individuals. So we have to be mindful of this distinction. And then it is about a general picture. Under Article 115, it says that the SAR or the SARG should consider whether, taken as a whole, we are still practicing free trade when we formulate any policies. Bearing in mind that the background of this article is such that when the drafting of the Basic Law was carried out, we believe that when we try to amend the Import and Export General Amendment Regulation 2013, when the Basic Law, in particular this article, was introduced, the Import and Export Ordinance was already there. And in fact, the Court of Final Appeal did ask us to consider the background of any legislation. So this is a provision about the policy of free trade. And bearing in mind that the Import and Export Ordinance has always provided for restrictions on the import and export of certain goods in Hong Kong, and under the I&O Ordinance, in particular in relation to the schedule to the subsidiary legislation, we have noted that the schedule itself has already included certain goods which were subject to certain restrictions even prior to 1997. Therefore, I'm trying to give you the background to justify our view that Article 115 does allow for a certain degree of restrictions when it comes to the import and export of goods. Of course, we have to check whether we're still practicing the policy of free trade. We believe that for this amendment, we are only adding a provision concerning the powdered formula under the Import and Export General Regulations. If the addition of an item in the regulation is to be regarded as a contravention against the policy of free trade, I think we aren't really doing that. Therefore, in the gist, we are not breaching Article 115 of the Basic Law. Next, Mr. Sin Chung Kai. Just now, the DFJ's representative gave us a reply. I hope they can draft a legal opinion in writing. As you know, that Alan Hu has launched a very serious criticism against you. He is saying that you're breaching the Basic Law, and bearing in mind that he's a senior counsel, so I think it would be good if you can come up with a written reply. Now, we have suppliers, we have manufacturers, traders, wholesalers here. So, talking about this ban, I think it is something done with reluctance. We don't quite want to support this measure. If we have other alternatives, they can safeguard the supply of powdered formula so that babies can have a particular brand or formula, then it will be good. According to the spirit of free trade, if certain parents would like the babies to be fed on a particular brand, and when there's no manipulation, and as long as the consumer is willing to pay the price for it, then we cannot afford to expect any shortage like that. Now, to include a sunset clause, I don't think it's difficult. Now, we have got so many stakeholders here. I think if they can give us a clear idea about the picture, if they can convince the community, the legislature and the administration, and if they can ensure that there is a steady supply of a particular brand of powdered formula, then I don't think anybody around here would be interested to introduce legislative amendments. So I just wonder if the industry can tell us whether you can seek a solution by having a closed-door meeting with the administration. Well, according to the papers, it is said that the loss will be huge. I've always said that for mainland parents, they are also parents, just like local parents. I think if we can do it, it will be good if we can supply the powdered formula to them, as long as it isn't done at the expense of the interests of the local babies. So please consider my suggestion. Have a closed-door meeting, find a solution for everybody. Mr. Tang? Basically, the administration has never approached us in relation to this point. I think there are many solutions out there. Ultimately, it is a logistics issue. Now, you impose an export ban. It is generating a greater problem. Now, in fact, I would have liked to get 10,000 cans. Now, with the ban, I have 2,000. Now, by having a lower level of stock, it will be difficult to plan properly. And when there is a shortage, there is a shortage. You just impose an export ban. You are not imposing a ban on shortage. I think the crux of the matter lies with why there is a supply failure. So try to get hold of the retailers and the suppliers. So we want to be sure of the supply. Perhaps there can be a meeting, talk about the desired level of stock, and then look at ways to perfect the supply chain so that there won't be any interruption. And when there is a failure in the supply chain, would it be across the board in Hong Kong, or whether just confined to Shanghai? Say there may be 20 outlets in Shanghai made up of chain stores, etc. Maybe not everybody is willing to cooperate with you. There are bound to be black sheep in any particular sector. So get them to sign an undertaking with you. Now, I think you can ask the parents to place orders and you promise to deliver the goods in 7 days' time. So has the administration given us the opportunity to solve the problem? Now, to be frank, I've been criticizing the formula manufacturers. If you are advertising your goods, you should make sure that there's an adequate supply. I think parents are entitled to choose a particular brand. The export ban cannot address the problem. The stock level will be lowered, and then it will be difficult to get an additional supply. Now, if you want the Holland supplier or manufacturer to send an extra carton here, it's just not the same, because the formula is a Hong Kong specific formula. So the administration must play a role here. Try to have a meeting with the suppliers. There are many solutions, there are many alternatives, but I don't understand why the administration is not trying to do something about it. So administration, the accusations that you haven't liaised with the suppliers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the course of drafting the amendment, I think it takes time to develop the amendment being sought, and we did consult the industry. We did so even before the drafting of this amendment legislation. We have been talking to the retailers and the suppliers all the time. This is the first point. Second point is that we can tell members that on the 1st of March, we introduced the subsidiary legislation, and since then we have seen a significant improvement. Perhaps I would like to invite the Customs and Excise to provide you with further information. Yes, Mr. Yu, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, since the coming into effect of the law between the 1st and the 12th of March, 221 cases were exposed. 206 persons were arrested for breaching the law. We analyzed the caseload. We have seen a decrease in the number of cases. Now, if there is still such a demand on the mainland, it means that law enforcement has to be continued. For the past 10 days or so, at the boundary crossing points, general travelers and Hong Kong citizens have been very cooperative with our law enforcement. And as a result, we haven't delayed the time needed for clearance. Next, Mr. Alan Leong. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, I would like to thank the deputations who have come to speak, suppliers and retailers among them. It was only in February that they came, and it was only a short time ago they attended a meeting of the Food Safety and Environmental Hygiene Panel. Mr. Chairman, for the Civic Party, we don't think that it breaches the basic law, because if you turn to Articles 114 and 117, then you know that, yes, we practice free trade, but in fact we are allowed to prescribe for the imposition of tariffs. And in fact, we can also issue our own certificates of origin for products in accordance with the prevailing rules of origin. Therefore, 2 cans for a 24-hour cycle won't be regarded and shouldn't be regarded as a breach of Article 115, because all in all, we're still practicing free trade. However, the Civic Party still thinks that it is not desirable. We should avoid it as much as possible. Mr. Koh has said that it is an emergency and we need to deal with it urgently. Yes, we agree. Had it been so, we should give priority to Hong Kong babies. It's unthinkable if the local babies cannot have an adequate supply of powdered formula. However, having heard what the speakers have said, I think the majority of them preferred to have a sunset clause, or at least have in place a mechanism to make sure that the exceptional measure will be subject to a review. They will be interested to know when this will come to an end. I think ultimately they are talking about a concept. That is, in fact, the administration is paying a price for it in return for time. But what are we buying time for? Mr. Chairman, last time Dr. Koh came and he said that he would like to set up a reliable and steady supply. My understanding of his statement was that he would like to be sure that there is a continuous supply from the retailers for the needs of the local babies. Just now, the speakers, including Mr. Tang Wai-in, made it clear to us that there wasn't a problem with the supply. If the administration is to have a meeting with the suppliers, they think that the problem can go away and there is no need for such an exceptional measure. I really hope that the deputations can understand that prior to the Chinese New Year, there was indeed a very severe shortage of powdered formula. There was a run on it. It did happen. So perhaps we can join in a discussion as to why this has been allowed to happen. I think the General Chamber of Pharmacy can enlighten us in this regard. Since we've got so many representatives here, I want to ask this question. The Civic Party also thinks that while we are buying time to solve the problem, there should be an end to this particular measure.
Well, the Secretary told us that he would like to have a good enough supply chain which will ensure steady supply. So I'd like to put this to the suppliers as to whether they will be able to help the Secretary achieve this policy objective within a short period of time. And then we can have the sunset clause. We can appreciate the beauty of this sunset clause. I'd like to put this to Mr. Wei, Mr. Tang, who are on behalf of the supply chain. Can they really do something like that? Right. We have 9 members who are on the list to put questions. I didn't impose any time limit because we didn't have that many members. Now there are more hands raised to put questions. I'm afraid I have to, without any alternative, impose a time limit of 5 minutes for questions and answers. I have no alternative but to do that. So after this question by Mr. Alan Leung has been answered, I have to impose a time limit, so do bear with me. Mr. Tang, Mr. Hui, you care to respond to Mr. Leung? Chairman, now previously some people were not able to buy any infant formula. I mean, there was a perceived situation. Now, let's say in a particular district, when people go and purchase the infant formula and they couldn't buy them, and they came to the conclusion that, that there was a shortage. In some Schiphol, there were some people who couldn't buy any infant formula products, but then couldn't, and they came to the conclusion that there was a shortage in supply. Also, it is likely that some retailers might put up the prices because of the shortage, and they find it unacceptable. But this is not the case that they run out of products in the retail sector. Now, if there is a shortage in certain areas, there may be a mismatch. Now, we are communicating with the brands to make sure that there would be good supply. Last time, there was a recycling, and we did this in many different districts. I'm not sure whether they have considered all these different views. But we were not consulted, and I never heard of them being consulted. Chairman, I've been here a number of times. Hardly ever do we get asked questions like how do we deal with these problems. Now, this is a commercial problem. We should not restrict the export. There were no provisions before February. There were no guidelines. There were no guidelines per se. Now you can get hold of us, all the suppliers, the drugstores, the pharmacies, Mr. Wong, import and export representative, Mr. Vincent Fang, retail sector. And you can sit everybody down and come up with something to prevent shortage in a particular brand. If there is such a shortage, they can be penalized. I think it's simple as that. Before February, there were no provisions per se. Mr. Tang, let me just respond briefly. As of now, Hong Kong hasn't banned any export of infant formula. I heard you say banning. I'd like to make this very clear to the members of the public. The government has never banned any export of infant formula out of Hong Kong. I've heard you say this many times. It's just prohibition. Mr. Leung, well, I know that I have spent quite a bit of time here. I just like to say this. The administration has to answer the questions. Mr. Tang and Mr. Hui are depicting a picture for us that when or before the administration adopted these exceptional measures, there didn't seem to be any consultation with the importers, the import and export sector, to sort out the problems. I hope that the Undersecretary would appreciate this. Well, Undersecretary, can you tell us, please, during the Lunar New Year, when there was a tight supply of infant formula, and also when you put together all these measures, did you or did you not consult the trade? If so, can you tell us the specific time frame as to when you talked with the suppliers, the retailers, and so on about this problem? Yes, indeed, Chairman, we did have meetings with them. Perhaps the Deputy Secretary can supply more information. Mr. Chen, Chairman, at the beginning of the issue in January, we did have we did talk to the retailers. The pharmacies store were represented. We do engage them in discussion. Also, the supermarkets, the retail outlets, we do maintain communication with them. We've asked them, or asked the manufacturers or the brands to strengthen their service. And at the LegCo meeting on the 4th of February, they said that there was enough supply, and they also said that they took stringent measures to tackle the retailers that engage in malpractices. Despite all this, we have received from LegCo members and the parents complaints about the shortage of supply at the retail level for certain brands. In fact, we maintain communication with the suppliers, the retailers, and the retail outlets. We hope that they would improve the situation, but unfortunately, there were no improvements, and therefore the government adopted all these measures. It was said that we try to ban the export of the baby formula. I'm grateful to you, Chairman, for clarifying this. In fact, we are protecting legitimate trade for those importers and traders who are legitimate. We will issue them with an export license for them to engage in legitimate trading. Now, under the Food Safety Ordinance, these are registered importers. Hong Kong doesn't manufacture any infant formula, so the importers will have to register themselves. And this is a requirement under the existing legislation. So we would issue the export licenses to the registered traders. Right, we have Raymond Chen, Tommy Cheung, Paul Che, Mr. Fan, Mr. Shek, Mr. Zhong, Mr. Stephen Ho, Mr. Wu Chi-wai, and Mr. James To. 5 minutes because of the sheer number of members. Mr. Raymond Chen. Thank you, Chairman. I'm grateful to all the deputations who are here with us today. Unanimously, they are against this export prohibition on baby formula. Now, there have been no major problems, only minor problems, but from the members of the public in NT East, they have really severe problems. They couldn't buy any baby formula all the way down the railway line from Shengshui. I'm not trying to engage you in a debate. Most of the LegCo members are in support of this legislative proposal. I'd like to ask the administration to do something to assuage public concerns. Now, even if we don't have the sunset clause, it doesn't mean that we would support this restriction on a permanent basis. We hope that this is only a temporary measure, a provisional measure to tackle the emergency situation. Once the problem has been sorted out, this can be taken away. Last time, during the meeting, the government has given the undertaking that this would be kept under review on a regular basis. Will the administration be more specific, maybe we can have a quarterly review. The members of the public find that there are problems. The media find that there are problems. The administration didn't see the problems as such at the beginning, and then they decided to adopt all these measures. I think the wisest. I'm not sure about the best way to deal with it, but at least we forced the administration to liaise with the trade, the mainland officials, because of all these measures, have to face up to the food safety problem and also the smuggling of goods into the mainland. I heard from the trade that there was shortage of supply for certain brands. Maybe they are trying to create this perceived shortage, and they are bringing everybody into it, and everybody has to pay for it, and they're making less profit, and they are suffering from high operating costs. A month on, has the administration conducted any investigation as to whether there was some manipulation on the part of a couple of brands? They tried to squeeze the supply. I think that it would be impossible for us to limit the export of a couple of brands in terms of export, because they can certainly have means to circumvent this. Now, it was said that taxation would be a more effective measure than the restriction. I'm not sure whether the administration has considered that, and have they considered any difficulties in this regard? Now, LegCo members are supportive of this, and some said that this is unfair to babies in the mainland. Now, if there is a famine in the mainland, we are prepared to eat less to support the mainland people. But do we really have any scarcity of supply in baby formula? You said that we're being unfair to the mainlanders. Now, who has sympathy for the Hong Kong parents who simply cannot buy any baby formula all the way down the railway line? Now, you can object to this restriction, but you cannot say that the fact that we support this proposal is unfair to the mainlanders. I don't think you should intensify the conflict between Hong Kong and the mainland like this. Under Secretary, well, thanks very much to Mr. Chen for the question. As a matter of fact, there was some shortage in supply, and we have this legislative proposal. And we have been monitoring the situation all along. Now, we have got the support of various departments, like the Customs and Excise said we did achieve some tangible results. The members raised all these views or proposals regarding taxation and so on. I can take this opportunity here to ask the Permanent Secretary to say something further. Chairman, as regards the timetable for the review, we are more than delighted to come back to LegCo and report our review as to whether the time frame should be quarterly. This can be discussed further. Mr. Chen also raised the question of supply, shortage in supply, whether we have tried to understand the situation. Now, in fact, we have tried to understand the issue of scarcity. Now, in the LegCo brief, we have made it very clear that for certain brands, there was some shortage in supply. Now, all these brands put together take up quite a large proportion of the market, so the impact was pretty significant. So we saw the need for something to be done about the situation. Over the past month, what have we done? As Dr. Koh said last time, we are liaising continuously with the suppliers with a view to improving the supply chain. Now, we have the hotline service. We have the replenishment of the stock. We have all these measures will be good enough, and this will be continued.
Mr. Tommy Cheung, did you call my name? Perhaps I was a bit hard on hearing. I did not seem to be able to hear you, but you were wrong to start with no time limits. But at that time, there were only 4. At first, I thought the Liberal Party had come to speak on our behalf, because so far all the representatives have been speaking in a way similar to what the Liberal Party has been saying. Now, Mr. Raymond Chan talked about local babies' needs. Now, it is not right to think that we are not taking care of the local babies. We have to give priority to local babies. Now back to this amendment regulation. Well, I resent this amendment regulation. Mr. Alan Leung has just left. When he chaired the panel meeting, he received many deputations. Well, at that time, we talked about the bundled sale. You can't just have a supply of baby formula. You need to get the follow-on formula as well. Well, you know that for pharmacies and drugstores, they have a difficulty in getting the delivery. Why can't we have deliveries more frequent than once a week? Now, on the first day of Chinese New Year, if a store said that a particular brand of chocolate has been sold out, would you expect the delivery to be to take place soon afterwards? In Hong Kong, the transport is well developed, so you don't need to worry. Restocking can take place easily. So you can see that the small and medium enterprises are always at the mercy of the major distributors. Now, it is, of course, I am far away from the days of buying a formula. However, Dr. Leung Ka-lau, he is a medical doctor, and he told his wife that they should get the cheapest brand, and there's no problem with supply, and there's plenty of them. And if you care to ask Mr. James Toh again, he can tell you that for the 2 brands that he has been purchasing, there's no problem at all. So there isn't any shortage, there isn't any scarcity, and in fact, it is only a knee-jerk reaction on the part of the administration. Now, the administration has been saying that there has been consultation. I think it's a matter of depending on how to put it. Now, the way that you've drafted the amendment regulation, I think, has this been specifically be made the subject matter of consultation? I don't think so. I think you did this behind closed doors, and it is attracting a lot of criticism. Now, many people have said that exceptional measures are needed for exceptional circumstances. Mr. Sin Chung Kai has said that he may not accept it. But then, to me, if there isn't a sunset clause, if you just count on a review, then you are not going to achieve anything. For any rules or regulations, if there isn't a specific sunset clause, then it will be there forever. It will be like set in stone. Now, I'm airing my grievance, and I hope that the Deputy Secretary, the Undersecretary, would give a reply. Have you actually consulted anybody on the specific amendment regulation? Between the 7th and the 18th of February, we consulted the public. On the 7th of February, we consulted the trade. Did you consult them on the draft of the regulation, or was it just a general consultation? Please be specific. Yes, specifically about this piece of regulation. Can you address Mr. Zheng's question specifically? When did it take when it took place, and who were consulted? Mr. Chairman, I will set out my request very succinctly. It was a matter of poor timing because it was before Chinese New Year and everybody was trying to grab the powdered formula, and yet you said that you were consulting them at that time. So who were the consultees and where did it take place? I think it isn't something that has to be kept secret. So please show us the information so as to convince me that your consultation has been adequate. Yes, we can give an account about the outcome of the consultation. Next, Mr. Paul Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, thank you for acceding to our request so that we can have a public hearing concerning this particular piece of regulation. At first, you said that there was already an opportunity to listen to the public, but then they're saying something similar, said the chairman. Now, we need to turn a crisis into a business opportunity. That's what we expect of a good government. But then for stupid government, then business opportunities will be turned into crisis. I hope that from this story, you can see that a very significant business opportunity has been allowed to be turned into crisis. Now, for this government, the government has always been accused of siding with the central government at the expense of local interests. Now, if you think that it is a very foolish government, then I think this administration is going against its perceived image. Mr. Raymond Chan said that we shouldn't do anything more to aggravate the conflict between mainland and Hong Kong. I think there are certain people, certain lawmakers who would like to escalate the confrontation, the conflict. I think it is a lack of wisdom on the part of the administration unless it wants to aggravate the conflict. Now, we have Hong Kong babies residing on the mainland, and we have also asked for elderly people in Hong Kong to consider retiring to the mainland. Now, we have got something totally unnecessary. It is a barrier. The Civic Party has said that they are very concerned about the protection of human rights and other rights and interests in the Basic Law. Economic rights are just as important as other human rights. Alan Leung said that we shouldn't just look at the superficial meaning. We should also look at the context of the various articles in the Basic Law. I hope that in the future, when they accuse the government of breaching or violating human rights as protected under the Basic Law, they should adopt the same approach. We want to protect our free trade. We want to protect our free economy. And we need to be as cautious as what has been said. Had we done that, then Alan Leung's statement could not be established. Now, we have only got limited time, so today I don't have the opportunity to argue with the DFJ about the Basic Law implications. There will be other opportunities. Now, last time the trade came to talk about the question of proportionality. Just now the DFJ said that it's a matter of whether we've already got the legislation. But last time you talked about the question of proportionality. Now, you are restricting it, but at the same time you are providing an exemption. I think it is, in a nutshell, a ban. Please also look at the other articles or commodities in the existing schedule. And if you look at the penalties, then you know what it is all about. I don't think this is the right context to impose a ban. I think you are desperate. You're trying to get something which may address the problem. Now, I think it's a stupid thing to do and done in a foolish way. I'm afraid that I have to point out that last time, all out of a sudden, C.Y. Leung issued a letter to Hong Kong Economic Journal, and he issued a warning letter to the author, Mr. Joseph Lian. I think it is totally uncalled for. Just now the trade told us that there wasn't a crisis, there wasn't an emergency, there was no shortage. Now, all along, we are supposed to uphold free economy, and I think the pan-democrats should have called for a PNP inquiry because the spirit of freedom hasn't been upheld. I think it is a matter of overreaction. Is it temporary? When will it come to an end? We are given no guarantees, and there are no established criteria to say when it will come to an end. And you are also breaching the rule of proportionality, so I'm afraid it is against the basic law. Mr. Poche, I think your time is up for you to air your views. Next, Mr. Gary Fan. I'm glad to have this public hearing. Paul Chair asked for this public hearing, and as a lawmaker, I thought that we were duty bound to listen to the views of the public. I also agree that you're right to say that this amendment should not be allowed to become something permanent. There must be a time limit. Although at this moment I can't say whether I would agree with you on that there should be a sunset clause. You talked about free economy, free trade, freedom in import and export. All such a rights should be safeguarded and protected, as you have said. Just now, Mr. Tang Wei-yin mentioned that the government should have consulted you more often and there could have been a solution among you. But then prior to the 28th of January, that is before the announcement on the 1st of February, now we know that since 2008, when the contaminated powdered formula was exposed on the mainland, we have had this problem, and it has just degenerated into an unacceptable scenario. I think hoarding and bundled sale was found, and the media were very concerned, hoping that the suppliers would make an announcement. That is how come that they were able to increase the supply by 500,000 or 1 million cans of milk, though they are not willing to disclose the total sales volume for a month. In 2003, we have the individual visits scheme. In 2009, we have the commencement of the multiple visit visas. Quite unlike what Mr. Tang has said, I don't think it is purely commercial in nature. For the lawmakers, of course, we regard it as an important livelihood issue. It is also part of the political issues facing us. And otherwise, you don't see so many national leaders talking about it. And even the director of the liaison office in Hong Kong, Mr. Zhang Xiaoming, also referred to this matter. So it is more than a question of trading or doing business. On behalf of the New Democrats, on the 18th of January at a Security Panel meeting, I said that we should resort to the Reserved Commodities Ordinance as well as the Import and Export Ordinance, so the government would exercise public powers to take care of the needs of the Hong Kong parents, because the parents and babies in Hong Kong are facing a long-term problem. There is a shortage of powdered formula. So to me, I think this move is reasonable, sensible and lawful. I don't think Mr. Paul Chair would be applying for a judicial review since when this comes into effect, and I don't think it is against the WTO. On the contrary, I think the government has been late and the government hasn't done enough. The source of the problem isn't just a matter of shortage of powdered formula. Corruption on the mainland and also contamination of the powdered formula on the mainland at the root of the problem. Otherwise, there won't be so many people coming to Hong Kong to buy the powdered formula. 34 million travelers came to Hong Kong in the year 2012. In other words, 50,000 are visiting Hong Kong on a day. And the government has been saying that parallel trading isn't against the law. But then, when they make such purchases on such a large scale, the traders are breaching the mainland laws because they are avoiding the duty on powdered formula imposed on the mainland. So make sure that there's a supply of safe powdered formula for the mainland parents.
Well, we're not saying that you are trying to make profit out of mainland problems, but we hope that the baby formula in the mainland would be safe enough to consume, and we can reduce the conflict between Hong Kong and the mainland. Are we trying to stir up the conflict between Hong Kong and the mainland? We are not. Right, Mr. Abraham Sheikh, Chairman. I heard what the Liberal Party said, and I am in support of them. They're not looking at the issue from a political point of view. They're looking at the issue from a key principle perspective, the principle of a free market. Now, if we're adopting extraordinary measures for extraordinary situation, may be right politically, but it may be wrong in principle, because this would undermine the economic position in Hong Kong. And we have one country, two systems in Hong Kong. The 1.3 billion people don't have one country, two systems, and we do. And we have to maintain this free market principle in Hong Kong. I don't think I can go along with Mr. Alan Leung. He said that there are no problems with Basic Law 114, 115. If you look at Article 45 and 68, if you look at the election of chief executive and the legislature, he should apply the same perspective to look at 115 and 114. We should not be interpreting the basic law superficially. We have to look at the principle behind the provisions. So I think that these politicians, just because of the minor problems in Shangshui, have turned the problem into a whole Hong Kong problem. I think Mr. Paul Chair has got a point there. I joined this subcommittee in order to support this proposal. Now, there is a fine line between restriction and banning. And as far as I am concerned, this is interfering with the free market severely. Second, I'm not saying that I don't trust the administration, but I do have doubts about what the administration says. And I hope that the DOJ's advice can be made available to us. So through the chair, I would like to seek advice from DOJ as to why this is not against 114, 115. Before 1997, we didn't have the basic law in place. Now the basic law is here to safeguard all this. I would support a sunset clause here. These are extraordinary measures for extraordinary situations. These are powers given to them on a provisional basis. They should not be using the power permanently, like the stamp duty. It is a wrong path. The prices are boosted by 40-odd%. There is such a shortage of supply in the market. We asked for a sunset clause from 2 years to 5 years. There has to be a sunset clause. Even if this is endorsed, I hope that the legislature should monitor the government. These are extraordinary measures for extraordinary situations, but I don't think our freedoms should be chipped away like this. And I hope that the Democrats here should bear this in mind. Just because you have the right number of votes That doesn't mean that we should ignore the principles. We should ignore the principle of a free port, one country, two systems, Hong Kong, with a high degree of autonomy. All right, thank you. Mr. Chung Kwok Pan. Chairman, thank you. The administration said that they've got in touch with the trade, but this was disputed by the deputations. Now we have all of us face to face, and I hope that the administration will invite representatives from the trade to discuss the issue. Now this is no major issue. Maybe in a very short period of time we can sort out the whole thing. Whether we can have the sunset clause, I'm sure that we can get this sorted out as soon as possible. And then we don't have to even talk about this proposal. Now, regarding WTO, Mr. Philip Chen mentioned that if there are certain commodities that are in severe short supply, there can be restrictions to be imposed. But the trade said that there is no scarcity. Dr. Koh also said that there is no question of any scarcity. Now, since there is no scarcity, and he is quoting the WTO about a restriction to be imposed in the event of a scarcity. I think what he's saying is contradicting himself. So I doubt very much whether there are any problems here. Basic Law 115, it was said that there was a list before 1997 on the commodities that are subject to restriction. I understand this about the textile industry. Now, there is an agreement that is signed between the importing countries. Now, China doesn't impose this kind of restriction, and you are imposing this export restriction. I do have doubts on whether this is in violation of the basic law. Now, this question is on behalf of Mr. Vincent Fang. Now, of course, we have to guarantee that babies in Hong Kong will be given a limited supply. But there are some babies from Hong Kong who are living in the mainland. And they are Hong Kong babies to all intents and purposes. So should there be any guarantee that babies from Hong Kong who are living in the mainland should also be protected? Under Secretary. Chairman, thank you. Thanks very much for the question, and I'm grateful to Mr. Vincent Fang for bringing up this issue of Hong Kong babies who are staying in the mainland. Now, our measure is that within 24 hours, anybody can carry 2 tins or 1.8 kgs of infant formula. We bear in mind that this is a feasible measure for self-use, and we will not deprive people of any supply of infant formula. Permanent Secretary. Well, I think Mr. Zhong has got some problem with the understanding of the situation. Now, we have made clear in the electrical brief that for certain brands there is a severe shortage of supply in certain retail outlets. And this is really an objective fact. Surely, from different districts, we have received complaints, and members also referred some of the complaints to us, and all these are well documented in the media, and this is an objective fact before us. Mr. Stephen Ho, please. Chairman, thank you. I've heard a lot of views from members. I'm grateful to the suppliers who are here with us. They've advanced their argument against this regulation. Now, why do we have to have this regulation? Do we have a shortage in the supply of baby formula? You don't have all the statistics. Do we have any scientific means to work out the statistics, how much have been imported and how much are sold in Hong Kong, how much is exported outside Hong Kong to places outside Hong Kong in a legitimate manner or illegitimate manner. What about the parallel goods? Now, we have collected views from the members of the public. In fact, they failed to buy any baby formula. It was said a moment ago that in Central Post someone couldn't buy anything after going to a number of shops, and it doesn't mean that there was a scarcity. But this is not the situation unique to Central Post, Tuen Mun, Shangshui, all the way along the Israel alignment. It all happened. I mean, is it really mean for you to say something like that? You also said that the government didn't consult you. This is not a colonial government. Before enacting a piece of legislation, would it be true that the government would not approach you? But I think you have to talk to each other clearly about this. I mean, some members asked for the minutes of the meeting, so nobody can hide this. So I hope that you will reveal the situation. The trade can sit down and talk about the solution. But over the past 6 months, what have you done? We haven't seen anything done by the trade. If nobody is littering in Hong Kong, we don't have to have the $1,500 penalty. So right now, and also in the near future, can you do something about the situation? If you can do something about the situation, we have no problem with the administration presenting another bill to repeal all of this, even in absence of any sunset clause. So I hope that the representatives of the trade would tell us over the past 6 months, what have you done? Have you sat down in order to come up with a solution? All right, Mr. Tang. Chairman, I don't really find myself in politics. I don't even remember the names of the members. Now, this is commercial operation. The retailers do have the freedom to sell their goods to anybody. It would be difficult for them to tell whether this is legitimate or not. Now, when we sell the products to the retailers, we don't know who they're selling the products to. There are no such statistics. Have you been to any consultation forum? How does the government conduct the consultation? It's normally they talk and we don't talk, we can't talk. So you don't understand the commercial operation. I don't think you should point an accusing finger at us. I'm not really reprimanding you, but you don't really seem to understand the commercial operation. Mr. Ho. Well, the suppliers have not given us any statistics. Well, will you tell us, will you show us, you showed us all these stock in your warehouses, but people simply cannot buy the products. Well, before February, there were no provisions. This is a free society. I don't think we can tell you about the secrets of our companies. But once decision has been made, we have to ensure supply. Right? I don't know how many times the government met you over this baby formula issue, but in January, in room 615, the DAB did spend 2 hours talking with the baby formula suppliers. I'm not sure whether the administration did the same thing. The members did talk with the representatives of the trade. Now, the trade said that there is enough supply, but the retailers have another argument. So there are so many nagging doubts in the minds of the members of the public. As someone from the sector, I hope that the practitioners would have good practices, they should engage in decent practices. Mr. Chen. Well, the question of consultation, I heard from Mr. Hui from the Hong Kong General Chamber of Pharmacy Limited say that they want to consult about this regulation. In fact, during the consultation period, we did receive submission from the General Chamber of Pharmacy Limited, and they said that we should delay the implementation of these regulations. I'm sure that they are aware of that, and this is really a fact that I'd like to supply members with.
咁幾個原則嘅問題咧，一定要搞清楚。
Mr. Wu, I think we need to seek clarification on a number of points. First of all, it is said that there is a way to make sure that there is a secure supply of formula to the local babies. I think it is beyond doubt. And it is also agreed that after all, we aren't talking about dangerous drugs or other contraband articles that have to be eliminated. In fact, it is indeed a special measure called for during a special time. So my question for the administration, what factors would you consider to bring it to an end for this very special measure? And also, can you not tell us the following? Now, if you just carry out a review, then the right to initiate it would rest with the administration. Perhaps we have to go through many procedures before we can call for an end to it. And perhaps it will still stay with us even though there's no need for it anymore, and that may harm the interests of the trade. Now, administration, you're actually buying time. For how long, and what are you going to do in the interim? We want to be sure that we maintain a favorable business environment. We want to make sure that there is an adequate supply for local babies. Ms. Chen, Professor Chen, I think Mr. Wu has made himself very clear, but if I may add a point here, that is the review mechanism. Can it not be triggered by lawmakers here? Would you give immediate consideration to this proposal? Mr. Chairman, at the panel meeting, we already made clear this point. We want to make sure that the local babies will have an adequate supply of formula. I think, in fact, this is the main purpose of this amendment regulation, and it is also the sole purpose of this regulation. The administration feels that it is duty-bound to do this. As to the review, well, as I have said, or as it has been said by us, we'll be looking at it continuously. Of course, in the course of the review, and many members have talked about time limit, timing, whatnot. On our side, we hope that it will be kept under constant review. And as many of you have said, we are buying time. We hope that the time available will enable us to communicate with the suppliers and the traders. At the end of the day, we want to have an adequate supply. We can't just stay at this stage, remain at the stage in which everybody claims that there is a supply, but we want to be assured and be given the objective information that there is indeed an adequate supply. Therefore, we believe that there is no need for a sunset clause. It won't be appropriate. But then to address Mr. Wong's proposal, both within the context of the subcommittee and in future at panel meetings, we will continue to listen to the community. We have to count on your cooperation before we can maintain an adequate supply. So, on the question of a review, well, we are prepared to come back to the panel to report to you about the progress. Mr. Wu, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I asked this question as it is important because so far I have yet to be convinced that upon introduction of this weapon, how the administration is going to rationalize the supply. Now, you know that contaminated food products are abundant in the mainland. Today, we have problems with formula, powdered formula. Tomorrow, maybe soy sauce, and we don't know what would be the third one. Now, we are buying time. If you expect us to accept that we just count on reviews, then I'm afraid this amendment regulation would only be standing in the way. And in fact, we can't stop other disturbances to our market at the retail level, as other products may also be sought after, like the powdered formula. Communication with the traders. Well, in fact, we have been talking to the government, the political parties, and lawmakers. I just want to emphasize one point. Not all of them have stayed silent. Some of them have responded. Some have been able to sort out the matters and can respond to the needs of the parents. So there is a problem with some brands only. So it is wrong to perceive that all of us are not doing anything about it. In fact, if you don't have clear goals, since it is only a partial problem, then it won't be fair to those who have been working very hard for the needs of the Hong Kong society. It's difficult for us to forecast the supply as well as the stock levels, because it will have a bearing on our operation. So in the coming months, there will be a lot of uncertainties. So I hope the administration will have a clearer picture, and please don't always accuse the suppliers for failing to do anything about it. I think it is the business acts of certain brands only, and I don't think I'm in a position to defend them here. But others have been doing their best they have been doing what is within their control to render support. Professor Chen, I want to give a reply. Yes, a brief one. I'm grateful to have the many comments and suggestions from the industry. As it has been pointed out, Mr. Chen and myself have been going after them all the time. I don't think we are in opposition. We are not sort of being confrontational. As has been pointed out, the problem may be confined to specific brands only. However, the brands together take up over 60% of the market share. So if many people are not able to buy their favorite brands, there would be a problem. Yes, meeting time will be limited, but we'll be more than happy to keep up our liaison with the suppliers and the retailers. We hope there is a mechanism to make sure that there is an adequate supply. Of course, the industry has said that it won't be easy. For example, who are buying it and for what purpose, they don't know. And therefore, we need to buy time, so that in the interim, we can set up a mechanism. And it won't just satisfy the administration or the industry. It should satisfy the local parents as well. All right, 3 members would like to speak for the second time, but I can't help it because we've only got 5 minutes left, so 1 minute each. Gary Fan. For a long time, Hong Kong is supposed to have free economy, but I believe that we need to amend the law. This is because until October 2003, or rather in 2003 October, there was an amendment to the Import and Export Ordinance so that we could deal with the very rampant smuggling activities in relation to certain electrical appliances. At that time, no one came out to say that the freedom to do business has been violated. So my question is, back in the days of 2003, before you amended the import and export regulation, did anybody ask you for a sunset clause so that there will be a clear idea as to the factors that would lead to a decision to remove the regulation? Professor Chen, the short answer is no. We have to review it in due course. And then if we feel that the circumstances justify, then we will plan for the next step. Mr. Wu, now, the government's buying time. I hope that within a short period of time, the administration can find a solution together with the trade and make sure that we go to the crux of the matter, that is, parents will get sufficient powdered formula for their babies. Failing that, experience tells us that when an amendment is given effect, we don't know when the amendment will be repealed in the future. Yes, your point is taken. Lawmakers are duty-bound to make sure that we provide a favorable business environment, and we have to safeguard the interests of the local babies so that they have an adequate supply. I hope that even at this stage the government will be doing this. Yes, we will make sure that the government keep a close eye on it. Vincent Wang, I ask a simple question. According to Professor Chen, it is said that the deputations here only have 40% of the market share. In other words, the other two brands take up 60% of the market share. There's a very substantial share. Is it because they don't know that they can come and they should come? Otherwise, if the major brands have not come to speak, then we are not been able to get the correct picture. Well, at the panel meeting, I said advertisements are very common, and they are advertising, they are promoting their products, and yet if they find it difficult to sell, then it means that it is hoarding. So 60% of the market share is absent here. Mr. Fang, why didn't you ask the two of them to come? I did. We are not empowered to issue a warrant to demand them to come. Paul Chen, can we seek an amendment to ban the two brands only? But of course, that's merely a joke. Now, I would like to have the benefit of certain legal opinions. I asked for it last time, but we haven't been given this information. So, DFJ, please have a comment on the GATT implications. And I hope as long as the privacy is not breached, I would like to be given information about the consultation sessions. Now, we have only got a minute or two left, so I will be brief here. Today, well, in fact, since the last meeting, the administration has been preparing a response to the issues raised last time. We last had our meeting on the 1st of March, and the administration is now preparing the response. I just asked the administration to do it ASAP. And then, on our part, we're going to have our third meeting tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. So if there isn't anything under AOB, yes, Vincent Fang. Well, I couldn't come on the 1st of March, so I asked a number of written questions, quite a lot of them. Yes, they're supposed to give a reply to your questions as well. If they aren't in a position to answer the questions tomorrow, what's the point of having a meeting tomorrow? When are you ready with your paper? Mr. Chairman, Mr. Fang asked 10 questions. I think within today, if not by tomorrow morning, we'll be able to submit a paper to you. It's a matter of negative vetting, so we are running out of time. And we are going to ask the House Committee to agree to our request to extend the scrutiny period. Now, the timetable would be like this. On the 22nd of March, we have to report back to the House Committee. 10th of April will be the deadline to move amendments. And then we'll go back to the LegCo on the 17th of April. So we actually don't have much time left to deal with the outstanding issues. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I know that the timetable is tight. On my part, I've got 10 questions. I hope the administration will give a reply. Second, and during the meeting, other members have also said that the DOJ should come back with a formal legal opinion. So I think we should have the benefit of that as well.
Well, they are preparing the paper. Second, Chairman, the Trade and Industry Department, in the eyes of the TID, what is their position of the issue vis-a-vis the WTO? Well, in fact, you have raised all these questions. You were not here last time, but your letter has been taken note of by the administration. They will be giving us a reply to all questions. So rest assured, if they don't, I will pursue them. Unless there are any questions, the meeting now adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.